Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. I'm Joe Everett. Well, currently 50 degrees outside here at the farm this morning. Was hoping we would start seeing some dry weather by now, but that's not going to be happening today. We'll have a full forecast update for you shortly to see when farmers can expect to get back in the fields. Some quick calendar reminders, powered by Soy Biodiesel. Make sure you tune in at midday today as we visit and get an update from the folks at Ohio's Corn and Wheat. Then celebrate the 38th Annual Armed Forces Day with the Findlay Military Association, May 15th through the 18th at the Hancock County Fairgrounds. Visit FindlayMilitaryShow.org for a full schedule of events, sponsored by Ohio Logistics. Well, more than 15,000 USDA employees have taken one of the Trump administration's two financial incentive offers to leave the agency. The sum represents about 15% of the USDA's total workforce. President Donald Trump's administration has offered federal employees several months of pay and benefits if they opt to leave their job as part of his effort to shrink the federal workforce. The number could rise over the next month because employees over 40 were given more time to decide whether they wanted to leave. The USDA spokesperson confirmed the total number of staff departures and said Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins is working to make the agency more efficient. Rollins has exempted 53 position classifications from the ongoing federal hiring freeze, including wildland firefighters, veterinarians, and food safety inspectors, to ensure critical agency functions continue, according to the spokesperson. Well, farmers have been making planting progress across the United States and Ohio. Let's see how they're getting along. Coverage of the Ohio Crop Progress Report is sponsored by Unleaded 88. Save on fuel with the blue handle. Fill up with Unleaded 88. Discover more at ohiocornandwheat.org. Starting with the national numbers, 40% of the corn was planted nationwide as of Sunday. That is 5 points ahead of the 35% last year and 1 point ahead of the 5-year average of 39%. As for its crop development, 11% of the corn was emerged as of Sunday, which is consistent with last year but 2 points ahead of the 5-year average. As we look to soybeans, an estimated 30% of the intended soybean acreage was planted as of Sunday. That is 6 points ahead of last year's 24% and 7 points ahead of the 5-year average of 23%. As for its crop development, 7% of the soybeans had emerged as of Sunday, 1 point behind last year but 2 points ahead of the 5-year average of 5%. Looking at winter wheat, as for the crop condition, an estimated 51% of the winter wheat was rated good to excellent as of May 4th, up 2 points from 49% the previous week and 1 point ahead at the same time last year of 50%. As for its crop development, 39% of the winter wheat was headed nationwide as of Sunday. That's 2 percentage points behind last year's 41%, but 6 points ahead of the 5-year average. Taking a quick glance at spring wheat, 44% of the crop was planted nationwide as of May 4th, 1 point behind last year's 45% and 10 points ahead of 34% for the 5-year average. Now looking at your numbers from the Buckeye State, corn planted reached 22% complete this week. That's up 14 points over last week, is 1 point behind last year and 7 points ahead of the 5-year average. As for the corn emerged, it's at 4% this week. That jumped 4 points over last week, but is 3 points behind last year, but is still 1 point ahead of the 5-year average. Oats planted reached 74% complete this week. That's up from 51% last week, but is still 1 point behind last year, but is 4 points ahead of the 5-year average. Soybeans planted is at 23% complete this week. That jumped 13 points over last week, but is still 5 points ahead of last year and is 10 points ahead of the 5-year average. As for soybeans emerged, they're at 1% this week. That is still 5 points behind last year and 1 point behind the 5-year average. Winter wheat joining is at 75% complete this week. That is 20 points over last week, but is still 16 points behind last year and is 1 point behind the 5-year average. As for winter wheat headed, it is rated at 7% this week. That is 3 points ahead of last year and 5 points ahead of the 5-year average. As for the winter wheat crop condition, it is at 61% good to excellent. Stay tuned. We'll be back with today's weather after this.
Nearly 90% of farmers say that financial worries, constantly changing market conditions, and other uncontrollable variables take a toll on their mental well-being. Add in the weather and family dynamics, well, it's a lot to handle alone. But did you know farmers and their families can receive free confidential services from licensed professionals? Support is available 24/7 to help with the challenges you face. Look for Farm Family Wellness Alliance under the Resources tab at farmfoundation.org. Take care of yourself. Your well-being matters.
You're tuning in on the Ohio AgNet. Today's weather brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Another very cloudy, very damp day today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. Low pressure continues to sit over the eastern Corn Belt. It's basically right on top of us here today, and so we're circulating backside moisture down through Michigan, across the Great Lakes, and right through Ohio. I think we have to allow for another quarter to half an inch of precipitation today. It's generally going to be light, but it's pesky, not breaking up or moving away at all. And even when we don't see significant rains, there could be drizzle that means we're just not drying at all. So very cool, damp, wet day today. I do think it's all gone by tomorrow as this low tries to push a little bit farther to the east. Tomorrow I'm going to call for a mix of clouds and sunshine, warmer temperatures thanks to the sun. Moving into Thursday, we see a little bit of instability wanting to pop up, so I can't rule out some scattered showers, especially afternoon and evening. Right now I'm going to say anywhere from a few hundredths to maybe half to 3/4 of an inch, coverage around 80% of the Buckeye State. We clear out again on Friday and put together then a dry weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, and high pressure kicks off the early part of next week, so I think we're sunny, warm, and dry Monday through Thursday. So Friday through next Thursday should be precipitation free. That's where we see the bulk of our drying, good evaporation, and that should allow us back into the fields. You got to hustle, though, because we also have our next frontal boundary trying to come in for Friday the 16th, and the weekend of the 17th and 18th does look like it's going to be somewhat active. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, economists fear that ag is heading into a recession. Agricultural economists are growing even more pessimistic as the latest Ag Economist Monthly Monitor shows that the majority are concerned President Donald Trump's tough stance on trade could push agriculture deeper into a recession, while also giving Brazil more of a competitive edge. As one economist stated, the stakes are high, and the key is whether Trump's policies push ag deeper into a recession, and if the United States agriculture can survive without China. This month, 72% of those surveyed show that row crop side of agriculture is in a recession, up from 62% last month. 82% of the economists also think that this could force more consolidation in agriculture. In the survey, 42% of the economists said that the current state of the ag economy is somewhat worse than a month ago, while 26% said it is unchanged. But when you compare outlooks to a year ago, 58% of the economists responded the ag economy is somewhat worse. Well, Mexico to become the top U.S. ag export destination. U.S. food agriculture exports to Mexico surged 65% during the last 4 years, making it the fastest growing export market for many American agricultural products and commodities. Mexico's growth as a destination for U.S. exports has been spurred by the booming post-COVID-19 economy and a rapidly growing manufacturing sector. According to new research from CoBank's Knowledge Exchange, Mexico will likely surpass Canada to claim the number one spot for the first time in 2025, despite some emerging headwinds. A few risk factors are developing that could slow additional growth, says Rob Fox, director of the Knowledge Exchange. Mexico's economy has been slowing, and the unusually strong peso has weakened by 15% since early 2024. As a result, Mexican consumers' purchasing power will be more of a challenge in 2025. Since 2020, Mexico's share of all U.S. ag exports went from 11.2% to 16.4%. Well, the nomination of Stephen Vaden to be the next USDA Deputy Secretary is advancing to the full Senate this week, amid turbulent times at the department over trade, staffing, and budget cuts and spending freezes. The former USDA General Counsel in the first Trump term and the U.S. Court of International Trade judge, Vaden faced tough questions from Democrats at his Senate confirmation hearing, but the Tennessean, expected to play a big role in the USDA's day-to-day operations, was quick to push back on criticism of the president's tariffs.
If we're going to be throwing punches on behalf of America's economy, there are some punches that need to be thrown on behalf of American farmers, too. Because while tariffs are the headline, what blocks so many American agricultural products from other countries are phony phytosanitary concerns.
Vaden vowed to urge the president's trade team to take the offense to open markets blocked to U.S. farmers and to be in constant touch with ag lawmakers. When asked by top ag Democrat Amy Klobuchar if terms like ethanol, biofuels, and aviation fuel targeted on a leaked Ag Research Service memo should be considered woke.
Senator, I do not, and though it did not come up in my meeting with you, I discussed the department's support for biofuels and sustainable or synthetic, whichever term you prefer to use, aviation fuel with your members, and I look forward to working with this committee on that.
The nomination of Tyler Clarkson to the USDA General Counsel also advanced to the full Senate. Stay tuned. We'll be back with your grain analysis and your overnight markets after this. Get ready to start bidding on a massive variety of heavy equipment and vehicles in the Ritchie Brothers Great Lakes Regional event happening May 14th and 15th. More than 3,700 items will cross the auction block during a one-of-a-kind sale, including everything from truck tractors, van trucks, and trailers to excavators, scrapers, and equipment for construction and landscaping. Registration for this unique unreserved auction is entirely free and open to the public. Visit rbauction.com to learn more. Again, that's rbauction.com.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals, your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
It's now time for today's market analysis, which is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished the Monday session on a lower note all across the board. Corn, beans, and all wheat markets were down. We saw double-digit losses in old crop corn, in most of the wheat markets, and in nearby soybeans. It was a risk-off trading day as it went on. Now, there was a brief period of time that the soybean markets tried to rally a little bit, mostly due to a bounce on soy oil, but there's a lot of uncertainty over the RVOs and biofuels policy, and that's really kind of dictating where the soy market wants to go in the short term. It was a bearish morning and midday session yesterday, and that went right on into the close. Brokers estimate managed money sold 13,000 contracts of corn, 4,100 contracts of wheat, 2,200 contracts of beans. There was not much other fresh news out there, and some traders already were looking forward to a week from now when we're going to be discussing not only the crop progress report like we're talking about today after yesterday, but also the supply and demand report that hits next Monday. Export inspections for the week ending May 1, 63,000 million bushels of corn, 11.4 million bushels of wheat, and 11.9 million bushels of soybeans. For the crop years to date, we're still up nearly 30% year on year on corn. Beans up 11%, wheat up 14%. The corn export pace says that we probably need to get a little bit of an adjustment on exports on the WASDE next week or into June. And the sales pace on beans suggests maybe we have to see an increase there, which was unheard of several months ago, but here we are. We're also hearing from the U.S. Treasury Secretary that U.S. and China could restart trade negotiations in the coming weeks. Now, whether that leads to anything or not, I think we're seeing trading the rumor and maybe the fact eventually, but also trading that in no way, shape, or form, as there's a lot of skepticism as to whether or not a trade deal can be done. And what about all the other countries that had a reprieve on tariffs? Are we making any headway on those individual negotiations either? I'm Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Now let's take a look at your overnight trade brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. July corn, 455.5, up 1 1/4. December new crop corn, 443 3/4, up 3/4. July soybeans, 1042 1/4, down 3 1/4. November soybeans, 1018, down 4 1/4. July wheat, 530, down 1 1/4. Now looking at livestock from yesterday's close, June live cattle, 213.65, up $2.55. August live cattle, 209.07, up $2.30. May lean hogs, 92.25, down 70 cents. June lean hogs, 99, down 35 cents. August feeder cattle, 298.90, up $2, and September feeder cattle 297.55, up $2. Thanks for joining us. This is the Ohio AgNet.